been. In 1960, when I was born, same-sex relations were criminal in every single state. And don't say it wasn't enforced, because it was in all kinds of ways. Police stings, people would lose their jobs. We could not serve in the military. We, of course, could not get married. We could not walk the streets without fear of violence and terrorism. We were denounced from the pulpits as a stench in God's nostrils. All of that changed, not because we have votes, because we didn't, and not because we had money, because we didn't. It was because we had the power of speech. It was because we were able to use our ability to speak and to protest peacefully, with a couple important exceptions, to change people's minds. And by God, that's how we did it. That's how the women's suffrage movement did it. That's how the Black civil rights movement, that's how the trans movement is going to do it if they ever get their act together. And young people don't know this. Young people think that free speech, not every young person, but the polls show that the younger you get in America, the less you believe in the value of free speech. And young people tend to believe that free speech actually is a false front put up by status quo, powerful interests, colonialists and racists and people like that. The very opposite of the truth.
Do you find that to be a stunning turnaround from
Yes.
when you and I were in college?
Yes.
How do you think that? What do you think was the path to the Berkeley free speech movement to the younger people polling as being the most anti-free speech demographic in this country right now?
Yeah, we're showing our age. Do you think your listeners know what the Berkeley free speech movement was? This is in the 1960s. Students at Berkeley, undergraduates, in those days, the state universities could exert strong control over what could be said on campus, and the undergraduates said enough of that, and they mounted a protest, a famous peaceful protest, a guy named Mario Savio, and they stood up for free speech, and they won. It was great. Actually, no one of the people who was there, he's a friend of mine, lives not far away. So this is not ancient history when these battles were fought. Okay, so why did it switch? I don't actually think it's all that complicated. I think when you are out of power and when you don't have votes, money, or mass support, and you're relying on free speech, you understand that it's important. But then what happens is that progressives become power-holding insiders in universities primarily, but also some of the other cultural institutions. And going back to what we said earlier, it's just human nature that when you're in power, you tend to want to suppress criticism, and you tend to want to impose your views, and you tend to believe you're right, so why shouldn't you? So we saw the rise starting in the late 80s, early 90s of speech codes in universities, and the use of the idea of harassment to shut down speech, saying that it was discriminatory verbal harassment for me to criticize you. You had a kind of therapeutic movement, a safetyism that said if I hurt someone's feelings on campus, I violated their rights.
Right.
You had the rise of an ideology that said, as we just talked about, that free speech is really just a way that oppressors impose their will. And all of those things within universities, of course, flipped the power dynamics. So now the people who were the minority rights activists on the outside, being small, weak, and needing free speech, are now running the dean's office, the provost's office. They've got the activist groups on campus. There are a ton of the faculty. And they're in no mood to allow what they think is racist, sexist, or homophobic speech.